Welcome back to the American Superbike Show. I am Stitch Turner, and I now know that I've made it as a podcaster because just mere hours after I recorded the show last week, we had big breaking news with like every word capitalized and everything. I did try to, go back and see if I could just edit the episode and add a little bit at the beginning, just explaining that, I had recorded it just a couple hours before the news release, but honestly, I just couldn't figure out how to do it. So I just let it be. And with that, we might as well just get right on into it. I am, of course, talking about the signing of Josh Herrin at Rahal Ducati Moto with Xpel, and that was announced last Tuesday. Um, so, in the last episode, I did say a couple of things. And first, I want to fully admit this is where I was wrong. I did say that I had the impression that with Josh's confirmation that he put out on Instagram that he would be leaving the Warhorse team, I kind of just assumed that his time riding a Ducati was also probably done as well. Now, originally, I did have a little bit of a thought, and let me stress that this was just not coming from any sort of place of inside knowledge. It was just my own thought. But, I did have this thought that Factory Ducati might do something to kind of step in and make sure that Josh stayed in their camp. Herrin has done literally everything possible off the track as an ambassador for Ducati, as well as winning their first American Superbike championship in over 30 years in 2024. For whatever reason, I'm pretty sure, though, that that's not really happened here. Instead, and this is about the other thing I said about how every team in the paddock should be fighting to get to the front of the line to sign Josh Herrin. With the quotes that did come out that were in the press release and in the article that was put up by the fine folks at worldracingworld.com, I really did get the impression that the Rahal Ducati Moto team learned of Josh Herrin's sudden availability in the same way that the rest of us did. And they did act immediately to get to the front of that line. Now, I know that some people do not like the fact that another one of MotoAmerica's top stars is once again having to take what is inarguably a step back in their career. I totally get that, man. It really isn't a good look. The Superbike championship the Superbike champion from just 2 years ago, who followed that up with a close second place in the championship this past season, for him to not only just be out of the ride, but to have to once again leave the class entirely and go back down to super sport, it's not something that anyone wants to see. But I do honestly think that this is better than some of the alternatives that we were probably facing in regards to this situation. We're going to start with Rahal. I do fully believe that the Rahal Ducati Moto team with Xpel had no clue that this was coming. I think on November 13th, which is the day that Cam Bovier and Benjamin Smith both, going to a Warhorse was announced. I think that Graham Rahal and Ben Spies, they woke up that morning and having no idea that Josh Herrin was going to be available that day. At that point, the Rahal team was already gearing up, both in personnel and equipment, for a brand new program running one superbike for PJ Jacobson. You know, and just because Josh Herrin was suddenly available, that doesn't really mean that the parts, and just as importantly, and probably more difficult to find, the personnel to run this machine would be available just like magically. At the same time, you made a commitment to PJ, who has been your lead rider since the team's inception. You just can't, you can't go back on that at all and kind of pull the rug out from underneath him just because Josh had that done to, just because of having the Josh Herrin. Instead, I think it's really just a boon for the Rahal team to just be able to bring in Herrin next year and have him slot into immediately into a role that already existed last year with, their leading their super sport program, and a role that PJ vacated to move back up to Superbike. Rahal already had intentions of running two Superbikes in 2027, and now they have the benefit of knowing already that a two-time Superbike champion is going to be the guy piloting that second machine. While in the meantime, you get to use that same Superbike champion who also won the Super Sport title in 2022. So just 4 years ago, he gets to come in. He's going to help give your program a boost while mentoring your two phenomenal young riders in a three-bike program. Oh yeah, and if you have any questions on how to make that Ducati Superbike scene next year, I'm pretty sure Josh Herrin can probably give you a little bit of help there as well. I mean, literally from every single angle when it comes to the Rahal Moto Team, and their sponsors, this is a win. Now, for Josh Herrin, I don't think it is as big of a win because he is stepping back into super sport again, but it's still a win. I mean, after winning his second Superbike title, one would think that those kind of days would be behind him. But it's something that, this was something that was just out of Josh Herrin's control. Instead, Josh gets to go to a reputable team that is a legit championship contender in the class that he will be running in next year. Plus, he already has a guarantee that he's going to step back up to the top class in 2027 on a program that should hopefully have, some of the kinks ironed out by that point. That is probably a smarter option in both the short and the long run, than trying to just rush together a second bike for the Superbike class in 2026. Honestly, I think the Rahal team deserves all the credit in the world for not only just getting this deal done, but for also not trying to force too much at once in it. Just taking the plans that they already had on the table and just making them better. One more thing, also, don't lose sight of the fact that if we're already talking about concrete plans for Herrin to run a superbike in 2027, that means that he is on at least a 2-year deal. A very large majority of the paddock operates off of 1-year deals, every single year. That's why I think this is a win for Josh Herrin as well. It's easy to get fixated on the super sport aspect, but this is, in my opinion, inarguably better than trying to throw something new together. With an unproven team, a manufacturer that he has either never ridden or hasn't ridden for in a long time. Especially when you factor in the peace of mind that comes with already having your 2027 plans taken care of as well. It's a win for Josh Herrin. And for the people that just simply see Josh moving back down to super sport again, that's bad no matter what, just because, the two-time champion wasn't able to keep a ride in superbike, I invite you to step back. Take a step back from that kind of thinking as a whole and ask yourself, what would have been the result of this situation 5 years ago? Or even 2 or 3? I mean, it's not an exaggeration to say that if this had happened to Josh at those points in MotoAmerica's history, that he probably would have been in a much, much worse position. For all the hand-wringing and consternation that comes with this kind of, move in musical chairs, try to remember to keep a perspective of how far this series has come to get to the point to where when Josh did have his seat vanish underneath him, he actually had a legitimate championship level option for him that, and it went beyond just a pat on the back and a thank you from his old team. Hell, I'm also super excited that I will get the chance to watch Josh Herrin go for his fourth Daytona 200 victory in a row on a Ducati in person this March, even though he'll be, changing things up with a new team. And since that is the way that I personally will be affected the most, and is therefore the most important aspect of all the musical chairs. I jest. So, anyways, that is easily the biggest story that happened in the week since our last episode. Another big piece of news is that Julian Correa, he's a MotoAmerican veteran. He ran the Talent Cup and Junior Cup before that. And next year, he's going to be competing on the world stage for 2026. The kid from Florida, he completed about half of the inaugural Talent Cup season in 2025. And in that, he was able to score, a couple of second place finishes early in the season. He had one at Barber, and he had another one at the following round at Road America. At the same time, Correa was also running overseas in the British Talent Cup, where he finished in the top 10 of the championship, despite not running all the, quite the full season there as well. And he did manage to pick up a podium over there along the way at the Snetterton circuit. Correa will be the second American to become part of the Superbike World Championship paddock, joining Garrett Gerloff. Gerloff should be back for another year on the factory, or not factory, but the Kawasaki team run by Patelli in the Superbike class. But I think he should be running on an updated ZX10, with the new one with the wings and supposedly upgrades and whatnot. It's going to be interesting to see how that bike does. But, Correa, the person that we're actually supposed to be focusing on, he's also going to be on a Kawasaki. But he's going to be riding a ZX636 in the new for 2026, the Sport Bike World Championship. And here's where I have to admit that I did not pay enough attention to this new Sport Bike World Championship. This is the series. It's replacing the old Super Sport 300 class, so it's not just a straight addition to the World Superbike paddock. Originally, when I first heard about the class, the first bike that I knew that was going to be, eligible for it was the venerable, Yamaha R7. And when I heard that, I made the assumption on my own that, it's going to be basically World Superbike's Twins Cup. Well, obviously, with Correa riding a four-cylinder Kawasaki, that's not really true, is it? I mean, I guess I need to do a little bit more reading of the whole article, and not just the headlines. I am pretty sure that while these bikes will, they're not going to be twins, that most of these machines are probably going to end up being balanced into something of the Twins Cup level with the rule set put in place, kind of like the same way they do with the next generation Super Sport, balancing all the bikes off of each other. Of course, the level, I I wonder if this is not something that MotoAmerica is also kind of. I'd be interested to see what their opinion is on the Sport Bike World Championship. Not really so much now, but like maybe after the season's over. And the reason why I wonder this is because like one thing I do hear about our Twins Cup that we have here in the United States is I hear fairly consistently that it costs almost as much to build one of those machines as it does for a super sport machine. And, maybe this Sport Bike World Championship format, this could be a way to help kind of bring down that initial barrier to entry for the class by using motorcycles that already have the performance level required, for the class and that need to be reined in and limited, rather than try and take a slower bike and just open up the modifications for it to try and make it faster. I don't know. Fans as well as MotoAmerica officials themselves are always looking for ways to welcome more bikes and manufacturers to the paddock. If this Sport Bike World Championship looks like a class that could make that happen, then I think it's something that MotoAmerica should at least look at. Let's see here. We're going to go to our final story this week. The AMA has announced their nominees for the 2025 Racing Awards. Voting's only open to AMA members, and it will remain open until Monday, December 15th. There are a few different categories that are open. Let's see here. We have AMA Athlete of the Year for national championship level. You have AMA Athlete of the Year Grand Championship level. And that category, Bodie Page is up for that award. He's, if you recall, the only other rider besides Dallas Daniels to win the Nicky Hayden Horizon Award for both flat track and road racing in the same season. Let's see here. You also have the AMA ATV Athlete of the Year, AMA Veteran / Senior Racer of the Year, the AMA Youth Racer of the Year. That category includes, mini cup competitor Cruz Texter. And let's see here. You'll also have the AMA Female Racer of the Year, Kira Knabel. She's looking to try and keep up her 2.5 and 2.5 mantra by winning this award. She has some tough competition here, though, from a couple of ladies that did a whole lot of winning in the dirt. Best of luck to all the riders nominated for an award, whether they come from MotoAmerica or not. But maybe a little extra luck for the MotoAmerica riders. Next week, I will be back for another wrap-up of the news of the weekend, plus maybe we'll continue our season review series. I forgot the order. I never really did write it down. I am pretty sure I'm going to do Stock 1000 next before wrapping it up with King of the Baggers and the Almighty Superbike. Thank you for listening, like truly. I hope you're getting as excited for the upcoming MotoAmerica season as I am. Because all of a sudden, like we are here in December, and once you get past the holidays, like I begin to have this like sort of mental countdown clock in my head until Daytona. And I hope to see you there because the race will be so, so very good.